not, but I'm not. But this is one of the creepiest cartoons I've ever seen. So right now, this is a little kid, an orphan kid, sitting outside in a blizzard, watching toys, I guess, perform in the window for him, knowing he can't get them. See? He's so sad and crying because the toy winds itself back up and gets going again. But he can't afford any of them. This is the craziest cartoon. I'm only going to be live for this. You see those symbolism in the bodies of those guys? So it's funny too how they can't really draw. Okay, so it's a blizzard. It's New York. This kid doesn't have a jacket. This kid has a turtleneck. It's so cold out that tears are freezing. His shit's all ragged. Just watch. This shit's crazy. Look at this. So he's so happy now because he has a toy for Christmas. And he lives under the Brooklyn Bridge in a shanty. This is his little house that he lives in, all by himself. And it's weird how they can't draw people back then. They can draw all kinds of things, but they can't draw people accurately. So now he's gonna make a Christmas tree. He just stuck that in there somehow. And it's so cold in his house that the bubbles freeze into ornaments. Gotta stop showing you guys for a second. Look, it's gonna pop. Oh, it popped but froze. Watch this part. Watch this part. Apparently a cat lives in his shit too. So he makes the cat electric and plugs it into the tree, which then lights up the Christmas tree. This shit is crazy, I'm telling you. Look, oh, this poor kid has a bed. Oh, he takes off his shoe and his sock so he can have a stocking, but it's all one big hole. Wow, this is just crazy. Somebody made this. They made this thinking this was a good idea. And why does this kid have a little stove made out of a garbage can in his house? Oh, I guess the stove broke. So then he goes back to sleep. Now the magical toy speaks into the radio to contact Santa. So Santa can come. And apparently I don't know why it's in such a weird. But look, Santa sees this kid sleeping in a shanty, dumps a bunch of toys in his thing. This kid is sleeping in a shanty underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. Santa jumps in, dumps off all the toys, and then leaves. So now this poor kid, he has a broken blanket, scratches his butt, scratches his hair. Oh my gosh, I have so many toys. My stocking is full. A gun. Got a gun in there. So he gets all these dumbass 1920s toys. And of course you have these. I don't even know who these famous people are back then because they're so old. So crazy. Oh, look at the little boy. He doesn't have a sock on. Remember, one of his socks is off. All these toys are. Think he's a J? Look at how crazy this shit is. I gotta keep turning it away because, again, I'm not allowed to have a review channel like other people are. So I'm reviewing. It's all J's. Oh, look, hits him in the butt. Ha, butt. Kids' butts. Ha, kids' butts. The goat is singing for some reason. And he's going around like this kid's got a big house. Oh, a weird goat. Look at this kid's so happy in his shanty. Oh, look, another present. Merry Xmas. And it is, oh, it's a nice dinner. Cake. He's so happy he's crying. Cake, milk, and a turkey. He's so happy he's crying. Kid hasn't eaten in how long? Oh, he's going to give some food to the toy because the toy needs to eat. I mean, this is just so gross. Oh, here, give some milk to the cat. Kid who lives in the shanty. And whose stove is now broken. Remember, his stove is broken. Gotta love that. A Charles Mintz production. That's who we'll look up earlier, or we'll look up later today. Charles Mintz. I've talked about that cartoon so many times, and it's like, we don't, I think cartoons are some of the best. Like, we don't have color video from back then. So the closest thing we have are cartoons, and you can see it in in the way that the house, like Tom and Jerry and shit. You see that they have like red walls and green carpet and shit. But that's how the world was. That's how people's houses used to look, blue and all these weird colors and shit. But you think, like, when you know that the cartoons weren't made for kids, they were made for adults, and you know that I mean, who why would uh why would there be so many cartoons about orphans? You know, who does that appeal to? This orphan lived in a shanty underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. I think that's the part that's so, like, off-putting for me. That means there was some sort of housing development. There was some sort of housing situation created for all of these kids to live in little shanties underneath the bridge. And you know, you start looking into the orphans, the orphan trains, and all that shit. And it really gets a little crazy, you know. I mean, it's strange to me how nobody's grandparents or great grandparents were orphans. Why doesn't anybody talk about it? If your I mean, they'd have to be really old by this point. But if they were the orphans of the day, talk to them. Get them to come on, get them to make videos and talk about what their earliest memories are and how all that shit went down. How did they become orphans? What happened to the parents? I mean, the narrative is that a lot of parents couldn't afford to keep their children, so they just let them go. And as a parent, that doesn't make any sense. I can't believe that the people 100 years ago didn't care about their children. And really, if you're starving, having the kid, it's a benefit. You know, have the kid out there begging. If that's what you have to do, the kid is going to be begging and more successful begging than the adults are going to be. How do you know, that's more income coming in. Sure, it's another mouth to feed, but I just can't imagine being like, all right, son, I can't feed you. You got to go. Just go out into the world and go make it on your own. There's a little shanty programs out there for you. You can go live in the shanty houses. Like, how does that make sense? So much of our history revolves around the orphans, the orphan trains. Like, there really is a crazy history here that we're just sort of, look at our house. Pink, blue, blue on blue, pink and green and orange now. You think that that's just cartoon choices, but it's not. They're trying to mimic what it looked like. The chairs, you know. If you look at the light sockets, they were different. It's really crazy. This idea of giving things castor oil and shit. Let me pour some castor oil down your throat. Where did all these things come from? Who came up with these ideas? I wish I could have seen what those books were. Between immigration and short lifespan, I assume that may have contributed to more orphans. But that's not the truth. That's the thing. People don't understand that that's not the truth. People live very long lives. Especially like if you go back in all of history, especially the people that made it to history, they had basically the same lifespan we have. And the whole immigration thing, again, this requires sending 4 and 5-year-old children out on their own. I just don't buy that. I don't, that's not a believable scenario for me. And I know we're supposed to believe everything we're told without any sort of questions or anything like that. I know that. But I know the system lies a lot. And because of those lies that we catch them in every other situation, we have to apply the same reasoning that they're going to lie to us about everything else. The orphan trains, we never even talk about who was making trains back then. The railroad companies just existed. They laid down all this track. There's this one section where they laid down like 13,000 feet of track or something like that in like a 36-hour period. I can't remember what it is, but it's some astronomical number. And it's like they immediately have the trains to go on them. What are you talking about? There's just once you start going down that Tartaria rabbit hole, it makes more sense. Something makes more sense. Once you start understanding that clearly we were more advanced than we think we were. You know what I think is really interesting too? Is the all those old pictures that show like the old cities, right? And they'll show like the big time city with the dirt road, right? With the unpaved road. What I think is always really crazy is when you look closer and you go, they had sidewalks butting up to dirt roads? Like that doesn't, what are you talking about? Lifespan was allegedly 47.3 in 1900. Yeah, I know, but that is one that's a super small. Think about it. How would they even have that information? In 1900, what computer resources did they have? We're talking about somebody wrote down on a piece of paper and somebody went around and what are we basing that number off of? And I'm not saying you are. You said allegedly, right? Still, even 50 years old in 1900 is more than you thought, right? We thought it was going to be like 30, But 50 years old, that's still pretty long lived. My great pop died in Auschwitz. No, he didn't. You're a liar. Yeah, you're a liar. He fell from a guard tower. Okay. Then how'd you guys get here? When we start talking about grandparents, Like, okay, so my grandparents were supposedly, one of my grandparents was supposedly a camp survivor. I actually believe us to be Project Paperclip, Operation Paperclip. Um, and my grandmother was the daughter of a Nazi soldier. So again, I just I have a hard time believing that my Polish grandfather survived the camp only to marry a German girl. Doesn't make much sense to me. But I mean, my grandfather, we weren't real sure what his birth year was or actual birth date was. I think they weren't sure if it was like the 23rd or the 24th or whatever, because for whatever reason. I would think dirt roads continued for horses before the mass adoption of cars, and sidewalks and cobblestone walks would be so people could walk above the dirt. Yeah, but when you start talking about the horses and stuff, you just get into a completely different scenario. And the horses, there's a famous the horse shit crisis of 1887 or whatever of New York or something like that. It's a well documented thing where they talk about the amount of horses that would have had to have been in existence at the time, like to feed all those horses, to give all those horses water. How did we do that? And then more importantly, the horse shit. Each horse produces 15 to 30 pounds worth of shit every day. And they said that the amount of horses that they said they had would require like 275 of today's modern garbage trucks to haul that shit out of New York every day. And but then where would you go? Where would it disappear to? Right? Where would that what did they do with all that shit? And they said the dead horses, they would just leave the horses on the side of the road. And at the same time, you remember, we're just basically dumping our shit into the roads too, because we didn't have plumbing. All those huge buildings, all those skyscrapers and huge cities that existed, none of them thought about taking a shit, right? Herbivore shit makes great fertilizer. Yeah, to some degree, I'm sure. But again, that's feeding all those horses. Just giving them the water that they would need to drink throughout each day. It just doesn't add up. And I know it's like this romantic sort of thought that we have these horse-drawn carriages and blah blah blah. But you have to really think about that shit. Like literally that shit. Like we're this is Donkey Inc., right? This is the people that were building, these marvelous fucking like buildings that we can't build today. We don't build today within a year or two. Skyscraper. New York, the oldest pictures that exist of New York show a pretty completed New York. And the whole shit crisis, well, there were big cities everywhere. There were big cities everywhere. So there had to be, just shit, so much shit had to exist everywhere. We drove to Kalahari not too long ago, and that's in Ohio. And we took the back roads to get there. So we went through a couple of these like random old towns, and there are these buildings that say like 1870 on them and shit. And of course the tops are real intricate and every detail is beautiful, and these buildings are still standing. And you start to really like you have to really start questioning this stuff and looking at like who the fuck was building all of this with what? Power tools not being invented till like 1895 or whatever it is. You think your dog works for Mossad? Any advice? Kill him. Kill him. If he works for Mossad, kill him. It would make sense, wouldn't it? If he's a dog, licking his own asshole and shit. Makes sense. That sounds like Mossad to me. You know, it's such a wild. It's just like submarines. It's just like everything else. The more you look into it, the more you realize something else is going on here. And I just find it super strange. Anybody that believes in Tartaria, if you believe in Tartaria or you believe in resets, common sense, at least to me, says you should think everything that you're told that happened before what you believe to be as reset time is probably bullshit. And really, everything else afterward is as well, because nobody talks about resets. Nobody talks about Tartaria. How does Tartaria just leave the conversation? The Russian flag literally has the white horse and the man stepping on the symbol for Tartaria, the griffin of Tartaria. You know, how does that work for you? All you Jesus believers, all you history believers, all that shit. Oh, well, ancient Rome and blah, blah, blah. I mean, clearly somebody really special compared to what we're told and really who we are built ancient Rome. And instead of us embracing it and saying, yeah, something cool, something weird, something whatever happened, it's like, oh, just shut up and you don't be a conspiracy theorist. How did we build that stuff? It's simple. We don't know. And that's that. That's the end of the scientific explanation. We don't know. The pyramids, we don't know. Castles and churches and shit from back in the day, how were we don't know. The canals. I mean, the Erie Canal is one of the more amazing bullshit stories they give us, but I think it pales in comparison to like which river is it? The Thames? I think it's the River Thames in England. The tunnels that they were able to build underneath rivers back in those days. Like you're told that they built them in the 18 whatevers. Hang on a second. Let me just to be. Hey, buddy boy. Where's the phone?
Here you go, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, man.
Go fuck yourself and your shaloms. Everything that has to do with the chosen people needs to be eliminated as quickly as possible if the rest of us want to live good lives. All right. First tunnel under... Yeah, it's the Thames. Okay, it is the Thames. The Thames Tunnel, built between 1825 and 1843. Let's see, the Thames Tunnel. Okay. Here is inside the Thames Tunnel in the mid 19th century. So in the mid 1800s, this is what we were capable of. Look at the people's outfits. Always seemingly terrified of the sun, hiding every little piece of their body. Oh, it's a modesty thing. No, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. Some self-reflection is needed. Why would some self-reflection be needed? I hate you people. I hate you people and your disgusting cult. It's a cult. It's a cult for psychopathic, disgusting people. So you go ahead and tell me why I shouldn't hate your shit, and I'll listen. I'm all in for questioning what you're told and approaching with a level of skepticism, but at some point you have to be amazed at some of the stuff we humans accomplish. No, I'm very amazed by it. I mean, I don't even know what you're saying there. I'm saying clearly some much more advanced humans existed here. I definitely don't think it was some sort of ancient aliens or anything like that. So no, it's so amazing, it's unbelievable. With the way that they tell us history existed, in the narrative that we're given by the Jays who control that narrative, what ends up happening, anytime something doesn't fit the narrative, they just go, I don't know. And we go, okay, cool, you're science, you understand things. So if you say you don't know, that's that. How did we build all those castles? Oh. How did multiple people all over the world build pyramids? Much of them very similar, especially since they weren't connected. Oh. How did they all know how to build it without having, like, who taught them to build them in the first place? Oh. How were all those buildings built in the late 1800s, early 1900s? Some guy, they did a contest in the mail, and random people just submitted their designs, and then one was picked by the government, and then they did it, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's fucking stupid. Have I ever met a Jay? Oh, unfortunately, tons of them. Worst people in the world. But see, I don't need to personally experience something for me to hate something. Although I have personally experienced their shit, and it's exactly what the stereotype is. They're committing genocide. You are committing genocide. You're slave owning genocide committers, and I don't support that at all. So no, absolutely not. Again, how would I look like one of these pieces of shit? First of all, my nose isn't nearly big enough or bumpy. I'm browner. I mean, it's just desperate nonsense. When desperate, stupid people have nothing else to say, they say desperate, stupid things. I don't remember owning any slaves or killing any people. Yeah, but you support it. That makes you even worse because you don't even get the benefit of it. You just support it. But that, again, look at this. Look at how stupid this is. I so welcome this because we actually have somebody trying to engage, and just watch the stupid shit he's going to say. Not at no point, he's not sitting here going, oh, I abhor the genocide. It's awful. It's the worst. I wish that we weren't associated with it. I wish we weren't associated with the cutting and sucking of baby penises. I wish that we weren't associated with the whole mikvah disgusting practice that women's vaginas are disgusting and they need to be cleansed after every menstruation, you know. Just the whole the sole idea that you're chosen and the rest of us, the rest of everything that isn't you is goyim. Meaning, there's no difference between the non-Jays and the cows, the dogs, the cats, the chairs, the tables. It's all here to be used and abused by them. Let's see. Who gives a shit about your dumb denominations and your dumb identities? I really don't care. Oh, LMAO, this guy, see? What's he going to say? What can he say? Go ahead and make it okay how you cut and suck baby penises. Tell me about it. Tell me about how that's okay. Go ahead and tell me how you guys aren't terrified of women's vaginas. And that they have to get it cleansed every month and just all the nasty process that goes into all that. Go on and deny the genocide. Make the genocide okay. Right? Come on, where are you? You had so much to say before, and now you're just typical dumb Jay, has nothing to say. That 60% of the world's population is who? Okay, again, what does that have to do with anything? Everybody but you guys, as disgusting as it is, at least they don't suck on it. Circumcision is one of the worst things we do as people. It's actually worse for the goyim, because at least the Jays are wait till the 8th day. And the only reason they do that is because the vagina is so disgusting that the baby that passes through the vagina needs to be purified for 7 days. So on the 8th day they do it. But if you see a baby, the difference between a newborn that's literally newborn and 8 days old is so much different. It's so much different. The newborn, the 8-day-old baby is almost doubled in size. But most importantly, that 8-day-old baby has experienced love, safety, happiness, security, food, a myriad of emotions and things and just comforts. And it's been alive for 8 days before it gets mutilated. With the goyim, we get mutilated within hours of being born. We don't know what the fuck's going on. And they don't even numb it. They tell you they numb it, but they don't use anesthesia on babies. That's really dangerous. So they do it. The baby goes into shock. The baby has to deal with it all by itself, try to figure it out. And once the baby finally passes out from the shock, then they take it to the parents and, oh, little boy, so sleepy. Let's see. Does this guy say anything? And a man also has to go to the mikvah. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to. And he's not required to do all the same bullshit, stupid stuff that the females are. Any way you slice it, the mikvah is disgusting. It's old, nasty water that people that don't generally shower get into. Men aren't even required to shower before they get into it. At least the women are. But again, look at how this guy keeps talking. They get us drunk, funny. This is all funny. He thinks it's funny to cut and suck baby penises. He thinks it's funny to think women's vaginas are disgusting. He thinks genocide is funny. This is I couldn't ask for a better representative, right? Because this is what they're not very, I'm telling you, the reason why they run the show is not because they're smarter than us. It's because they're much more ruthless than anybody else is. What genocide? Yep, you have no idea, right? Dumb Jay. And that's what I mean. They're not smarter than us. They're just willing to do horrible shit that we aren't willing to do. They're willing to use white phosphorus on women and children. I mean, they've killed over 200,000 people. The reports of 46,000, those are so grossly underreported. They use white phosphorus. They're literally committing war crimes every day. And most of the people being killed are women and children because they've already taken all the men hostage or killed them. Look at the states of past urban warfares combating the civilian casualties. Again, look at this dumbass. He's so desperate to try to say something. He can't address what I'm saying. So now he's just going to start bringing up crazy, weird, stupid shit. There was no Israelis killed on October 7th. None killed and none taken hostage. It's all bullshit. And you know it's bullshit based on their other bullshit. Like the Samantha Wool case, where they claim that this woman was found dead in her front lawn at 6:30 a.m. And they don't really give too many details, but that happened on October 21st, 2023. And the newspapers from October 22nd, 2023, the morning edition, talk about how the funeral yesterday was beautiful and attended by over 1,000 people. How do you die and then within a couple of hours there's a funeral? That doesn't happen. Kind of weird how the population keeps growing, isn't it? Again, Americans use white phosphorus, bro. Sure they do. I'm sure America is controlled by Israel and the Jays. So if the Jays are using it, so are we. But see, I'm not a disgusting Jay, so I'm not going to sit here and try to distract you and be, no. Of course. Look at what's happening. I had 2 friends that were killed. Sure you did. Sure you did. Yeah, we could always give names. They always have names. Where were their funerals? Where were the funerals? I had 2 friends that were killed. Bullshit. Bullshit. I can come up with names. John Smith and Billy Bob Johnson. Yep, they were killed too. That good for you? Got killed in the Nova. Sure he did. Oh, sure he did. He got killed at the festival. The festival that was allowed to happen. Supposedly this unprecedented attack happens, which is funny because, again, if you look at the Wikipedia page, the Wikipedia page had its first edit at 6:22 a.m. local time. Well, the super surprise attack that nobody knew was coming happened at 6:30 a.m. local time. So how was there a page before it even existed? But this notion that there was this unprecedented attack in the morning and they didn't know what was going on, but they still let the music festival go on. Do you realize how stupid that is? You literally have no proof that any Israelis were killed. All you have is these lion-ass Jays that might come on here and say something. But all they do is lie, so why would anybody believe them? Yep, friend from school. His funeral was. Yep, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. I was there, right? Because we should believe a lion-ass Jay, huh? Yep. None of his family members have been paying tribute to him either. Literally, 2 of my friends were killed. This is quite sad. No, they weren't. You're just a liar. You're a liar. And there's literally, why, again, it only comes down to we either believe some lion Jay or we believe the narrative that we're shown. We look at what we're shown, not believe it, but we look at what they show us. Think about how fucking crazy it is. We give these murderous, disgusting people $3.8 billion a year. It's actually 15 billion shekels by the time it gets to them. And we've given them well over $18 billion since last October. You don't think that money would be better suited here and not used to kill innocent women and children? Think about it. You know that Egypt also gets a similar amount of money every year. No, they don't. No, they don't. And it's funny though, Egypt is another Israeli ally. But nobody gets nearly as much as Israel, especially per capita. Israel only has about 9 million people, probably 10 million now. And notice how this guy too just so totally went over the cutting and sucking of baby penises. Why are you so okay with baby penises being cut and sucked? Because that's what they do. That's what you do. If we put that money into our country, we would have no more homelessness. Right. Well, what I think would be better, at least first and foremost, we cut off Israel and we use that money to form real pedophile hunter teams. Because the government says they can't do what like Pop Squad does and creep catchers and Ped Patrol and DAP, Dads Against Preds, and like all these, Chris Hansen. The reason that there's not enough funding for it. So first of all, we need to oust. Do you guys know that dual Israeli citizenship is one of the only dual citizenship that somebody can have and still be a member of our government on the highest levels? Do you realize how fucking stupid that is? Dude, because you found a name that, you know, maybe that's the name. Maybe that's the one that you're all told to say. Oh, I had this friend. Who gives a fuck what his dumbass name is? Just because you say that somebody was there. And what, am I going to look it up and see his name on the list of names? That's not proof. Show me a single video coming out of Israel that looks like a video coming out of Palestine. Show me a video of Ukraine. Same thing. You know why we give a shit about Ukraine? Because they have one of the largest J populations in the world. This, look up his name. How about you guys want to look up another name? Look up Hai Shalain. Haishaullain. Supposedly the number one like thorn in the side for the Israeli government when it came to COVID, when it came to masks and green card and all that shit. Supposedly this guy was the guy. He was the protester, and he was arrested at a no mask rally, where he was taken to prison, and 2 days later, he was taken to the hospital with super COVID because 8 days later, he was dead. Didn't have any sort of COVID before he was arrested. He was actually at a rally where a bunch of people weren't wearing masks, so he would have been spreading his COVID sauce all over the place. And there should have been a lot of people that came into the hospital after the fact that died 8 days later of COVID, like he did. And he said that the police poisoned him. He said he was too sick to talk or respond. But with prayer and the right medicine, he'll have this licked in 2 to 3 weeks. Or if he dies, it's because he was killed. Dies on Sunday. Monday, the funeral. That's the end of the story. None of the people of Israel ever try to find him again. None of the people of Israel ever ask about him. And the funny thing is, the number one protest guy, huh? How come there's no reports of him earlier? How come he doesn't have a Facebook page? How come he doesn't have Twitter? How come he doesn't have any of these social media? How come he has no presence on social media? He's the number one protest guy. Oh, is it because Israel makes shit up all the time? You know, earlier in 2023, they claimed that two Palestinian militants went to a gas station and shot it up, killing 4 people. You know, the same amount of people that could have died in a car crash. But they killed 4 people, 2 of which were 2 girls in their late teens, early 20s, who within about 2 hours of being killed had a funeral and been buried, so that the rampage, which is when the settlers all pool together and they go and they just march in a line and they break everything they can. They uproot the trees, the olive trees, they light them on fire, they light buildings and they cause destruction, and they call it a rampage. And they're backed by the IDF, the Israeli military is behind them. So if anybody fights back, they either get arrested or shot in the head. But you believe that somebody and of course the 2 Palestinian gunmen, one was killed by the military, the other one was killed by a civilian, a settler, because that's okay when they kill people. No trial, no nothing. And the only story you get is from Israel. There's no other story out there. But hey, you should believe it. You should believe that these people that control Hollywood and have the tremendous reputation for raping children, are the good guys. I mean, at the end of the day, you Christians believe that the bad guys of your Bible, not Satan. Satan's not the bad guy. The bad guys of the Bible, the ones that killed your Jesus, that they are your gods, your Christian gods, chosen people, completely different religion. The whole bloodletting, the well poisoning, you don't have these narratives stick with you throughout time for nothing. The idea that the Talmud says that they're allowed to that if a goyim were to rape a girl, 3 years and 1 day old, he should be put to death. But as long as she's 3 years and 1 day old, if a J rapes her, she now belongs to him. He has to pay her full dowry, and she belongs to him. It's what their beliefs are. People can get as mad as they want with Einstein and his like also on the show. It's all of course Einstein is a dumb J, just like all of you. You're all dumb J's. Christians came from J's. They did. That's how stupid you are. You came from Second Temple Judaism. It's fucking stupid. Isn't it funny? Everyone's God is different, but everyone's Satan is the same. I mean, they're literally the Abrahamic religions, meaning they all come from Abraham. Islam, Christianity, and J's. It's all stupid. It's like it's obviously a bunch of nonsense that they give the J's to keep them in control. Do you know that Hebrew is the youngest language on the planet? It was invented by a guy called Eliezer ben Yehuda, a little over 100 years ago. You think it's all super old and blah. It's not. It's new. Oh, damn, general relativity is all fake. Oh, yeah, it is. It is. Einstein was a total fraud. Anybody else that works in a patent factory and then suddenly becomes like, it's obvious. The narratives are just obvious. And guys like Tesla, real scientists of the day, they laughed at Einstein. They called him a fraud. They called him a fool. Talking about gravity and all this other bullshit. It's nonsense. There's no magical force pulling you down towards the earth. You want to see me defy gravity real quick? I'll prove to you that there's no gravity. Ready? There you go. There you go. No force is pulling my hair back down. Tom, Hebrew is the youngest language is crazy. How come I can read the Hebrew Bible? Because it's all been rewritten. You guys, okay, so because Tom's really dumb. Okay, so let's see. Eliezer ben, damn it. Eliezer ben Yehuda, born January 7, 1958, died December 16, 1922, was a Russian Jewish linguist, lexicographer, and journalist. He is renowned as the lexicographer of the first Hebrew dictionary and also as the editor of the Jerusalem-based Who Gives a Shit, one of the first Hebrew newspapers published in the land of Israel. The land of Israel. The state of Israel. Why do they always call themselves a state? Is it because they're the 51st United States? You guys just don't know it? I mean, what's his name? Smoltrich, Bezalel Smoltrich, said earlier in the year, it wasn't Itmar Ben-Gvir. It might have been Itmar Ben-Gvir, but I think it was Bezalel Smoltrich, told Biden he should shut up and mind his own business because Israel is no longer a star on the U.S. flag. It's a weird thing to say. Ben Yehuda was the primary driving force behind the revival of the Hebrew language. Oh, what? What? Eliezer Yitzhak Perlman, right? Because again, all of us have multiple identities, don't we? Was born in Who Gives a Fuck of the Russian Empire, now Oblast, Belarus. To Yehuda Lieb and Tizbora Perlman, who were Shabbat Hasidim. His native language was Yiddish. He attended a J elementary school, a Shadir, where he studied Hebrew and the Hebrew Bible from the age of 3, as was custom among the Jays of Eastern Europe. By the age of, how did he do that? By the age of 12, he had read large portions of the Torah, Mishnah, and the Talmud. His mother, and I hope you sent him to yeshiva, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a fuck? He became antiquated with the early movement of Zionism. Upon graduation, blah, 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 blah. Revival of the Hebrew language. To accomplish the task, Ben Yehuda insisted with the Committee of the Hebrew Language that, to quote the committee records, in order to supplement the deficiencies of the Hebrew language, the committee coins words according to the rules of grammar and linguistic analogy from Semitic roots, Aramaic, and especially from Arabic roots. Basically what they did was if you take a mirror and you put it up, if you like write out Hebrew, and you write it out and you put a mirror up to it, you'll see it's Arabic. That's all they did. They just reversed Arabic. It's fucking crazy. In 1903, Ben Yehuda, along with many members of the Second Aliyah, supported Theodore Herzl's Uganda scheme proposal. Right, that was when they were first going to put Israel in Uganda. They were first going to eliminate all the black people. But it didn't work out. Ben Yehuda raised his son, Ben Zion, meaning son of Zion, entirely in Hebrew. He did not allow his son to be exposed to other languages during childhood and even berated his wife for singing a Russian lullaby. His son thus became the first native speaker of Hebrew in modern times. Ben Yehuda later raised his daughter Dula entirely in Hebrew as well. Ben Yehuda was... But see, they're not going to give you... Like, it's not going to tell you how he did it, because they don't want you to know how he did it. They sort of yada yada over that. But his son was the first native speaker of Hebrew in modern times. It's easy. This is the stupidest take I've ever heard, right? It's my take, right? Yeah. Again, this is the guy who supports cutting and sucking baby penises. This is the guy who supports genocide of innocent women and children. This is the guy who believes himself to be born superior to everyone else and everything else, and that the rest of us are just goyim, here to be served, to be used. Tom is a horrible, horrible person. I've always said, it's about your choices. If you're good enough on the inside, if you're a good enough person to say, hell no, I don't support this supremacy. These trash beliefs, first of all, they're fake. It's all fake bullshit. All of Judaism is fake, just like Jesus is fake. It's all fake nonsense. There's literally no reason for you to believe any of it other than they tell you to believe it. That is literally your only like, the only reason why you should believe it is because they tell you. That's it. I love how somebody keeps telling me to get a job. Are you at work? Are you at work? I think you are. I think you are at work. I think you're trying, you're desperately to do your job, but you're just really bad at it. But again, I ask you guys, like, think about it. Just don't even, we don't even have to go into too much. Why do you think one group of people is not allowed to be talked about? Why do you think one group of people is allowed to commit genocide? And again, we're not allowed to talk about it, but they brag about it on TV every day. Genocide of the playground. One of the lowest going. I mean, you're speaking nonsense. Like this is the J way of doing things. They just speak in circles. Listen to this. Genocide that a population grown in has one of the lowest combatant to civilian ratios in urban warfare. What does that even mean? That's just nonsense. They are killing. They claim this crybaby. I know one of the around 1100. See, again, what you'll see whenever you read any sort of reports about it is they always say that around 1100 people were killed in Israel. And that's not how they report about themselves. whenever anything, it's Israelis. They refer to themselves as Israelis, or the people of Israel. Not in Israel, of Israel. It's very specific in the wording, and you would think, like, why is it that all of the reporters always report it that way? How come none of them say, I mean, I can't say none, there's probably going to be a couple that you could maybe find. But they always say around 1,100 people were killed in Israel. It's because they initially bragged that almost immediately after the surprise invasion, around 1,500 Hamas, which is not real, were killed in Israel. So now when they say things like, 1,100 people were killed, around 1,100 people were killed in Israel, they're telling you the truth. They're just manipulating the way you see it. They're making you think it's like when they say something is anti-Semitism, right? Like, I am so proud of my anti-Semitism. If you say I'm anti-Semitic, I'm going to say that's bullshit. And I'm going to take offense to that term. That's not what's happening here. Semitic is white, brown, black. It's all of the people of that region. Jays think they own everything, but they don't actually own that term. The term Semitic refers to the Palestinians, the Syrians, the Lebanese. All the victims of Israel are considered Semitic, along with a lot of the North African countries. So black people are also considered Semitic. So when you're saying anti-Semitic, that's a racist term, and that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is Semitism. And if you look up the definition of Semitism, I'll do it for you real quick, just so there's not any sort of confusion here. Semitism definition, okay? So we're going to go. And actually, you know what? Here, Semitism definition, okay? Semitism definition. I'm going to go to all. I'm going to go to the Merriam-Webster, which is what we all think is the best, right? Number 1A, Semitic character or qualities. Number 1B, a characteristic feature of a Semitic language occurring in another language. Number 2, policy or predisposition favorable to Jays. Jays. Why in any good sense should anyone give this horrible group of people any sort of favor? Yeah, the names were... Again, they always provide this list of names. Oh yeah, the proof is because we give you a name. He got... Again, notice how this guy is talking about all this, but doesn't have anything to say about the cutting and sucking of baby penises. His body is still... Nope, that's not true. God, it's not true. I thought you said you went to his funeral. Wait. You already said earlier you went to his funeral. You guys had the funeral, but no body, huh? That's not how Jays work. I'm so glad this guy was stupid enough to say that. So, earlier in 2023, some dumb Jay was driving around in the Palestinian area, trying to run people off the road. I will. He was driving around, he was committing crime. He was trying to run people off the road, and I'm proud of my hate. I hate pedophiles. Go and tell me why it's not okay that I hate pedophiles. Come on there, dumbass. Tell me. Tell me why it's not okay that I hate genocide and I hate disgusting people who believe themselves to be chosen and don't shower and fucking cut and suck baby penises and shit. Go on, tell me why it's not okay to hate that. Anyway, this dumb doofus is driving around, running people off the road, causing all kinds of problems. And he's drunk, and he ends up crashing his car. And so they take him to the Palestinian hospital, but it's too late, he's already dead. And while his body is there, it gets stolen, apparently. Well, the response that they did on October 7th, they were ready to do it when that happened, but I assume cooler heads prevailed and said, hey, we can't just do this over a dead body. We got to come up with something a little bit better. But to get a dead body back, they were going to bring the entire military in and kill all the people, blah, blah, blah. So to think that they're not, I mean, it adds, Israel is bombing the shit out of where they believe the hostages are being held. Oh, wait, they know where the hostages are being held. They're just not getting them. Oh, wait, there aren't any real hostages. And anytime they need a hostage story, they just go into a guy's house, they kill him, his family, and then they have soldiers strip down into civilian clothes and walk out and be like, oh, look, there were 3 hostages in there. Oh, they had to lay in a bed for a couple of hours. One of them was made to wash dishes. It's people like you that make us strong, so thanks for that, I guess. Right. You better be, because we're going to get you. Your time is running out, and you know it is, because you don't have anything intelligent to defend yourself with. You just have crybaby feelings of superiority, which they're just not there. It's not true. You suck. You are disgusting, disgusting people. And that's, you know, it's coming out. You guys know that the protests are still happening at all the universities. It's just not being talked about. You've been trying for thousands of years. Right. Thousands of years. Do you know why they've been kicked out of so many, 100 countries in the last 1,000 years? Because of their insistence on circumcision. Because they insist on cutting and sucking baby penises. That's why they were kicked out. That's why there's the Maccabee revolt. That's why Hanukkah is a thing. Circumcision is their number one mitzvah. It's the number one thing in their religion, is to cut and suck the baby penis. And go figure, everybody's had a problem with it. But they always claim this nonsense. They've been trying to kill us for 5,000 years. Well, if the whole Jesus thing happened 2,000 years ago, then what was it before that? Nobody tries to get rid of good people. Nobody hates good people. If you were good people, helping people and just being nice and just part of society, so separatist and supremacist, nobody would give a shit. You make up 0.183% of the world's population. You're nothing. And you'll see that soon. You will see it soon. So I'll be back. You guys have a great day. You pedophiles, please kill yourself. Go get your free download. The link is in the description. www.the-bilderberg, BILDERBERG. Yes, I have so much hate for you, and it's totally justified. Again, the whole pedo situation in Hollywood, basically all you. The pedo situation in the government, basically all you. The genocide, basically all you. All of the negatives are you. And you know, you use your dumb religious nonsense to control things, but it's just not, it's falling apart. And you know it is. I mean, I appreciate it. Like I say, I'm so glad this dumbass came here and decided to speak. Normally, they're much too cowardly for that. So this guy came on and literally proved everything I have to say right. So I'll be back in a bit. You know, this coward won't show up, but go get your free download. See ya. Pedophiles, kill yourself. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to do that today.